Well, Galip Dalay is the research director at the Sharq Forum and joins me now in the studio. Thanks very much for coming in. This referendum's been taking place against the background of a huge row between Turkey and some European countries, particularly Germany and the Netherlands. How do you think that has affected the voting in those countries?
Well, given the fact that around 3 million, like 2.9 million Turkish voters abroad that we're speaking about, 2.5 million of them are residing in Europe. That's, in this regard, it is very significant. And the fact that we see that the number of the Turks casting their votes abroad is increasing. In June 7, it was around 1,030,000, and then November 1st, 2015, it was around 1,200,000, and by yesterday, it has already surpassed this number, the number of the votes that was cast abroad. That means, to some extent, this row between Turkey and Europe has galvanized some Turkish voters to go to vote their votes. But in the end, on the other hand, this put them on a rather hot spot, because on the one hand, the countries that they are citizen, the Turkish citizen, they're Turkish citizen, both of them, but a significant number of them are also European citizens. So in a sense, like, this row had put them in a very hot spot. But nevertheless, what we see is it galvanized them to go to cast their votes to some extent. So
torn loyalties, perhaps. But who do you think will be the main beneficiary of the row? Will it be the yes camp or the no camp?
Well, it's very hard. I mean, in the end, traditionally, the AK Party has received a quite significant chunk of the Turks abroad. It was like the same case with the previous elections too. So the AK Party has disproportionately benefited from the votes that was cast from outside. So if this is a precedent, or if this is a benchmark, probably the yes votes will, will benefit more, because for a very simple reason, if there is more people turning out to the vote, if we take the previous proportionality as a reference point, that means the yes campaign will get a bit more than what is expected.
And it's the polls are suggesting it's going to be quite close. So presumably the expatriate voters could have a key role in the outcome.
Indeed. I mean, if we speak of, let's say, like 1.5 million, this is more or less like, 1,400,000. This is more or less the expected votes to be cast from abroad. This close to 2.5% to 3% of the votes. And now most of the polls are polling these results in a quite in a very closely contested area. That means, any percentage counts significantly in this election. In this regard, yes, the vote that will be cast abroad is very crucial for the result of this election.
And there's been some quite inflammatory language between Turkey and the European countries, talks of Nazi behaviour. Yeah. Is this a sort of manufactured outrage for the purpose of a referendum? Will they be able to get over this and have good relations afterwards, the countries?
Well, definitely the election cycles in Europe and the referendum in Turkey has increased the intensity of this role. But nevertheless, it was not completely manufactured. So to some extent, there was a myth to it. But the fact that both there was the election cycles in Netherlands and there was a referendum in Turkey has only increased their intensity. Like, I would not have expected the Dutch to behave the way that they have behaved if there wasn't only 2 or 3 days election, election down the road. So in this regard, yes, election cycle has unfortunately negatively affected the language and the nature of the relation between Europe and Turkey. Will this, will right after the referendum, are we going back to the business as usual? I don't think so. The damage has been significant, and I think the trust has been broken on both sides, and it's going to take years to repair. But nevertheless, we will see this row losing some steam. But let's not forget, some European countries still are going to have elections. There is election in Germany. Turkey is a very sensitive topic. It's going to be in France. In 2018, there is going to be an election in Austria. So therefore, now on the European side, there are the election cycles in which the Turkey will be a very hot topic. So I don't expect things to go back to as usual right after the referendum, but it will lose some steam.
Galip Dalay, thank you very much for sharing your insights with us, and we'll know in another week or so the outcome.
Thanks.